hooligans? It's Jennifer, and today I am doing my first ever bullet journaling video. I'm gonna keep this intro very short, but I started bullet journaling 2 months ago in January, and since then I have become obsessed. I'm still not the greatest at it, but you guys have been requesting bullet journaling videos for so long, so I finally decided to do one. I just want to show you guys how I would plan out a month. Today, obviously, I'm gonna show you guys how I planned out my month of March. Yeah, bullet journaling, I love I'm okay, I promise. Other than that, let's get started. Welcome to my bullet journal. So I just got this brown faux leather one on Amazon. I'll link it down below, but I flipped to a fresh page so that we can start our March planning. I'm super excited. So I used a pencil to first sketch out my design on my month cover page. For March, I decided to go with like a plant theme. So I have a bunch of draping leaves, like hanging plants, that kind of style. So this theme was inspired by some of the bullet journaling pages I've seen on Pinterest. Now I'm gonna take my fine liner and I'm going to go over the word March. And I did this more on the bottom of the page so that I could showcase more of the plants on top. I didn't write it out quite as nicely as I had wanted, so I'm just going over it and making it much nicer. This is my first bullet journaling video I've ever done, and I'm still trying to figure out my setup, so I was like laying on the floor for this, and I was filming this for like 3 hours, so the next morning my back ached so much. I also added this little curved leaf branch just to add a little more flavor, and then I started fine lining my hanging plants. So for the first one, I'm kind of sprouting these lines outwards of the plant pot and flowing down the page, just like my tears after a good Nicholas Sparks movie. But after that, I just added some leaves just by adding these little ovals. I also drew in my plant pot, and then I drew in a string attaching the pot to the ceiling. Then I moved on to a second hanging succulent, and this one is just circular and it has 2 little cute succulents in there. So for the next plant, it's also kind of similar to the first one, but the branches are going straight up instead of sprouting downwards. And then I drew the little pot, which is kind of like a trapezoid shape. For the next one, I did a little succulent in a bowl, and to do this, I just drew a couple of curved triangles and then shaded in the middle. And for the last one, I did the exact same thing as the first plant, just making it a sprouting hanging plant, but I made it a little shorter than the first one. After that, it was time to color it in, so I took my green zebra midliner, I believe this is called. I'll link all the supplies I used down below, but I just used this green color to color in my plant. For the plant pots, I used a gray color and I just filled it in. Pretty self-explanatory. I also thought it looked a little bit empty, so I added in some random leaves here and there just by drawing leaf shapes with my fine liner and then coloring them in with my green marker. Coolio! I then realized my March still looked a little wonky, so I decided to try to make it look nicer by adding a bit of a drop shadow with a gray marker. Alrighty, now moving on to the page that's right beside it, I'm gonna add a little quote just because I wanted to fill up the spread a little more. I wrote a quote that says, "Take a risk or lose the chance." And this is just kind of like a message to me because I'm a person that doesn't really like to take risks that much. I really want to push myself and challenge myself this month to do some things that are outside my comfort zone, and I have a lot of cool projects that I want to do, but I'm scared to, so this is just a little reminder for me. I also added in these little floating leaves all around the page to fill up the space more, to make it look a little more cute. And then I also sketched this drawing of a plant being watered by a plant waterer. What are these devices called? I have no idea. Anywho, you can clearly see what I'm trying to depict. So I just wanted to add a little sketch to make it a little more cute. I also went back over some leaves with a darker green Muji pen just because I wanted some variation in the types of green that were on the page. But anywho, that is my finished month cover spread. You know what? It doesn't look exactly how I wanted it to look like. I feel like it's a little crowded, but you know what? I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect, like Hannah Montana says. Anywho, moving on to the next page. For this next page, I'm doing a habit tracker. I used my green highlighter and I tried to do just one stripe across the top, but then it was a little not straight, so I had to make it a little thicker. thick with 2 C's. Then I just took my fine liner and wrote habit tracker across the top in all caps. Okay, so for the habits that I wanted to track this month, I wanted to do sleep 8 hours because, how do I say this? I don't sleep. Honestly, I've realized, this might be very obvious, but sleep actually makes you function a lot better than if you sleep like 3 hours a day. So I highly recommend sleeping. I also wanted to track how much I exercise because currently I have worked out once every 2 months, which is not very good for my body, and I don't want to die of a heart defect when I'm like 30 years old. I also want to make sure I drink water, which I never drink water. I think at this point we're just realizing that I have very bad habits. I feel like this habit tracker is honestly just exposing how unhealthy I am, but whatever. That's what we're trying to fix. I also want to start cooking a lot more, and the last habit I wanted to track was bullet journaling to make sure that I actually plan every single day. Under all of those headings, I also wrote down all of the days of the month, and the way that I track what day I do what is I color in the date that I actually did that thing, if that makes sense. So to make this more decorative and also add to the plant theme of the month, I made these kind of like wreaths around each calendar, and this is just like the branches that I did on the first page, but they're circles, obviously. All right, and then I just took my green Muji pen and I just colored in all the leaves with a darker green. The first time that I used the habit tracker was in January, and I swear to you, I only tracked 1 day. So hopefully in March I actually start using this habit tracker because I feel like it would be really cool to look back on at the end of the month and in months in the future to see just like how much healthier I've gotten, or hopefully have gotten. All right, for the next page, I wanted to make a goals/to-do list for the month. So these are like big things that I want to get done. Since I'm only gonna have a couple big goals for the month, I split this page up into 2. So for the bottom one, I'm making it into a video planner for my YouTube videos. All right, since I thought that looked a little bit plain, I took my black fine liner and I just added a little bit of a drop shadow to both of those headings. I just feel like this makes the letters pop a lot more and gives it a little more dimension. And I can't forget to add in some leaves, so I added in some branches on each side of the headings and then colored those in with my green marker. Coolio! Moving on to the next spread. For these 2 pages, I'm gonna do a monthly log, or is it called future log? I am not sure, but basically I'm gonna draw out my month calendar where I'm gonna put all of my big events that I know are gonna happen during March. So I drew out a grid for my entire month, and then I wrote the days of the week across the top of the page. And then on the sidebar, I wrote out March in cursive with my green marker. And then I'm using my darker green Muji pen and I'm making a drop shadow. And every time I make a drop shadow, it's always so that I am looking from the perspective of the bottom right up at the letter. And of course, I have to add in my little branches. So I added on 2 branches on each side, and then I also added in some floating leaves. So across the top, I also highlighted each day of the week with my green marker. So for the dates of the month, I added a little green circle to the top right corner of each grid. And then I took my fine liner and first of all crossed out all of the days of the month that were not in March. And then I filled in each circle with each date of the month. And since March 31st is on a Sunday, I didn't want to make an entire new line just for that one day, so I combined it with the week prior. Honestly, it shouldn't be a problem. And then I just filled in a little bit of what was gonna happen this month. So I'm actually going to Playlist Live in Orlando. If you guys are going to Playlist Live, you guys will see me. I'm so excited to meet some of you guys. Anywho, that is my future log. And moving on to the next spread. All right, moving on to the next 2 pages, which is going to be my weekly spread or weekly planner. So I'm splitting the page up into 4 big sections, and my lines here are just my lines here are just so wonky. They are not straight at all. Anyway, before I get way too worked up about lines, I wrote at the top February 25th to March 3rd because I wanted to include the last few days of February with the March days. I also added some decorative leaves at the top, of course. So for the actual days of the week, I used my green highlighter and I just drew a line on each section, and then I also drew a little circle underneath that line. Then I took my fine liner and just filled those in with the days of the week and the date. So you'll see here, actually, I start my weeks with a Monday, which is not very conventional, I feel like, because usually people start with a Sunday. I used to do that until I realized that for me, Monday works a lot better because Monday actually feels like the beginning of the week for me, because for my YouTube schedule, I usually upload on Sundays, which to me feels like the end of the week. So that's just how I like to do my weekly spreads. Obviously, this is a personal choice. For the last little section, I use this as like a thoughts section, so I can just write down any of the thoughts that I have for the week. It's kind of like a little mini area that I can diary my thoughts and whatever's going on that week, because I know that if I had an actual diary, I would never actually write in it, and it's just a good way to reflect or take down any notes in case I have any thoughts that week. In case I have thoughts, I mean, I sure hope that I have thoughts, like I hope that my brain is not dead. Anyway, that is my setup for March. So here is my final flip through. I'm just a beginner with bullet journaling, so this isn't up to the standard that I would like, but I'm getting there. Practice makes perfect. So that is my March plan with me and my first bullet journaling video ever. If you guys want to see more bullet journaling videos, let me know down below. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Shout out of the week is right here, and I will see you guys next time. Bye! Waking up in the morning, I can't remember yesterday.